The root purpose of life is learning how to love. Know that love, being able to love, is a blessing. It is the highest level of spirituality because spirituality is love. If you've mastered how to love, then you've mastered spirituality. You've mastered this human incarnation, because what is this truly all about? It is about learn how to love unconditionally, open-heartedly. We are love. We are the frequency of love and joy. It is the highest frequency available to us. Why does it feel so good to be in love? So learning how to love is the most important task that we have here in life. Think about it. The thing that we want most in life is feeling love, whether it is in a relationship or in friendships or with your parents, with your family. The most beautiful moments we experience when we can love. And being able to love is not as easy. Even though it is our true nature, it is our essence, it is so difficult for most because our ego gets in the way, or our parents weren't fully able to give us or teach us how to love open-heartedly with no conditions, no strings attached. I want to talk about it today. This is a very important video. Now, I think not many people actually know that they're confusing love with attachment, which is something that comes from the ego. So as humans, we have our ego, our brain, our mind. That is the human part of us. And then we also have our spirit, which is everything that we are. That goes beyond just the ego. And that spirit is on the frequency of love, pure love. And most of us get stuck just living from the ego, just living from selfishness, living from desire, living from attachment, living from control. How can you distinguish love that comes from the ego? A lot of people are unfortunately in relationships that are just based on the ego. And the difference with love that is actually attachment is that it is conditional. It is not an unconditional love. Pure love is unconditional. So many of us are in relationships where, yes, we think we love this person, but there is just actually so much attachment. There's so much fear. There's a lot of fear of losing them. Maybe there's a lot of jealousy. Maybe there's a lot of control in the relationship, a lot of dominance. Maybe you have a lot of anger issues towards each other, or just very subtle attachment where you literally cannot do anything without this person, right? You don't feel complete or whole without this person. We think that is love, but that is actually not love, that is attachment. Because what makes it attachment is that there is a condition for the person to act a certain way, to be a certain way, to do a certain thing in order for you to love them. And that is not true unconditional love, because unconditional love is so pure that it doesn't matter what the person says or is doing, you love them anyway. Now you're thinking, your ego probably is thinking, of course I'm not gonna love someone when they can do anything and everything. Well, that's probably because the frequency of the relationship, of the love that you have with that person, is on the level of the ego, partially on the level of attachment, because love equals trust. Love and trust are the same thing. Someone that you love purely and unconditionally, you trust 100%. It's difficult to have these types of relationships that are just based on pure love. I rarely see them. Don't get me wrong, I don't think many people are in a relationship that is of pure love, whether it is friendship or a romantic relationship. And this usually goes back because our parents weren't able to give us this pure love. Even they had some conditions for the love that they gave us, whether it is getting good grades or performing in a certain way, or, as a child, you needed to behave in a certain way in order to be loved. And usually that's because their parents, the parents of your parents, weren't able to do it unconditionally, and so forth, right? This frequency of pure love is still a very rare one in the society nowadays that we live in. That's why I want to talk about it. So the first important thing for yourself to understand is sometimes you might think that you love someone a lot, but you're actually just very attached to them. especially in toxic relationships, right? Or relationships where you've broken up a lot and gotten back together. And I recently saw this video of this guy, and a random guy on the internet, and he was saying like, love never goes away. My ex relationship from 5 years ago who dumped me, I still love her so much. I thought it went away, but when I saw her, everything came rushing back, and I just want to be with her even though she doesn't want anything to do with me. That's just a very good example of attachment. That is not love, because pure love is unconditional and fulfilling, and it is also a reflection of how you love yourself and how you fully accept yourself. And someone that makes you afraid that you might lose them, or an attachment that is based on fear, right? You need them, you want them, you need them in your life, and you're scared of losing them. That is a relationship that is purely based on fear. Fearful love is not love, it is attachment, and it only creates more fear. Fearless love is without any reservations, and it is completely freeing. Fear makes you selfish, and love makes you whole. The opposite frequency of love is fear. So when there is a lot of fear in a relationship, fear of losing them, fear of losing control, fear of what they're gonna do, so lack of trust, that is actually not love, that is attachment. And I'm just gonna say it, even though it sounds maybe a little bit confronting, a lot of us get into a relationship, even friendships, to fill a certain hole in us. It is because we don't feel complete, or we fear of being alone, right? We need someone in our life. We don't feel whole just by ourselves. And then we find someone and we grasp onto them and we're like, oh, we love this person so much. But if you can replace the word love with need, I need this person so much, chances are you're looking at a relationship that is very much fueled by attachment, fueled by the ego. And how you can recognize relationships as well that are fueled by the ego is that as soon as something goes wrong, as soon as that person that you love so much, or the person that says they love you, does something that is not according to their expectations or the image they have of you, or goes outside their control or the way they want things to go, they lash out, right? Or you lash out. You feel a lot of anger towards each other, and suddenly that person can go from the person you love so much, actually attachment, to this person that you hate or are so angry at. And why can it flip so quickly? It's because that thing that you were calling love was just actually attachment and fear. And on the flip side of that fear, it's like waiting to be disappointed because it has a lot of rules, it wants a lot of control, it wants things to go a certain way, the person to behave in a certain way. And if that doesn't happen, the outburst comes, the fear actually comes out. It maybe comes out in anger, but it's like, you're not behaving in the way that I thought you would. And now my true fear of actually losing you, because I am actually just very attached to you, is coming out. And what that same situation would look like in a relationship where there is, let's say, the majority of it is pure love. Someone does something that you didn't expect, and you're just simply able to let it go. And you see this type of unconditional love mostly in parental relationships, or relationship between a mom and a child. For a lot of moms, there is this unconditional factor to their love. No matter what their child does, no matter what they say, no matter what they do, she will always forgive them, because that's unconditional love. But most of us are somewhere on the scale of a little bit of attachment and a little bit of unconditional pure love. It's very difficult to reach that state where you're just 100% able to love purely and openly, and even more rare to find another being that is able to do the same. Now, I tell you why this is so rare, and that is because when we're still not fully awakened, which is, the process of spiritual awakening, where practically your energy energy also starts to flow more through all of your chakras, your heart is not open. The energy is actually not able to flow openly and freely in your heart. There is a lot of fear in your heart. There are a lot of walls around your heart. And this is usually because of past disappointment, past times where the trust was broken. Or maybe with our own parents, we were never able to receive that pure unconditional love from them. So from a very young age, we didn't really learn how to open our heart and love freely and unconditionally. And there are some practical things that we can do to open our heart, right? It literally first starts very simply by giving some attention to your heart, by literally sitting down in meditation quietly and just dropping down into your heart and see how that feels. And for people that haven't done that a lot, like dropping the mind into the heart, they might notice that they either immediately start to cry, immediately start to feel so much fear, immediately start to feel all of these emotions that they might not have been acknowledging consciously, because they never really attend to their heart. So they never really realized how their heart is feeling. And also on a practical level, you can notice how your shoulders, your upper back, the muscles around your chest are feeling. Are they very tight? Are they very hardened? The muscles in your arms, are they constantly flexed? Are there some painful pressing points around this area? These are all signs of a heart that is very closed off. It is literally using the muscles to protect itself, to close itself off energetically. And on a practical basis, you can massage and do stretching in order to help the heart to open. That is on a very practical basis. On a more energetic basis, day to day, it is first of all looking at the relationships that you currently have and understanding what portion of that relationship might actually be attachment. There's a condition to it. A person needs to behave in a certain way, or there is a fear behind it, a fear of losing them. And understanding how much of the love that you feel for them is actually, that attachment is actually coming from your ego and your desires. And same with when we're in a relationship and a lot of the attraction that we feel for that person is actually just a very strong physical attraction. While that is also based on desire, right? Sexual desire, or the desire that comes from the sacral chakra. That is not love either. That is just desire. And that unfortunately also comes from the ego. It's like, I want this thing, right? I want this pleasure thing to enjoy. So that is also not the pure form of love that is coming from the soul, that is unconditional. And we all have it in us. We all have the potency to love unconditionally because we all have a soul. And it is just how much have you been able to wake up to your soul, to your true nature, and how much have you been able to let go of the grip of the ego, of the mind, of selfish desires, of control and fear, really. So many of us are so afraid to love. And it is scary. But you know why it is actually scary? It is because we've never had that unconditional love with ourselves in the first place. This is really the root and the core of everything, because the relationships that we have in our life are merely a reflection of the frequency of love that we carry with us. And the frequency of love that we carry with us is the way we love ourselves. And this is a topic spoken about so much, loving yourself, and everyone is giving a different interpretation to it. But the most important thing here is the way you treat yourself, the way you speak to yourself, the way you attend to yourself, the way you listen to yourself, and the way you actually give yourself space and time to just be who you are, feel what you need to feel, and not try to change yourself. That is unconditional, because most of us, when we experience a fear or when we experience an anxiety, the thing that is actually causing so much resistance and friction is how hard we are on ourselves and how much we're trying to change this. Why am I always so anxious? Why am I always like this? Why am I not just a confident person? And we're so critical of ourselves. When do you ever just allow an emotion to be and be that loving, nurturing figure for yourself? Like, oh, you're feeling feeling very anxious right now. Well, let's feel it. That's what you would say to a child you love so much. You would just be there for them, give them infinite space to feel what they need to feel. And there are so many forms how you can start to love yourself, right? It can be in the foods that you put into your body, because a body that you love and respect, you would nurture with a lot of nutrients. That is a form of love. Then there's a lot of self-care, right? The way you actually take care of your body. And it shouldn't be then to make yourself look a certain way, because that's the condition of the love. That's again just an attachment, but it should just be because you want yourself to feel good and nurtured. And there's so much power in physical touch. Like, physical touch is one of our primary responses of love. So whether it is lotioning yourself, massaging yourself, just being a little bit more mindful when you're showering, that is really how you can start to practice love. Because most of us are just quickly rubbing ourselves, quickly showering, quickly doing all of these things, and there's so little love behind it. But again, think about the way, let's say you have a child that you love so much and you're showering them and taking care of them. How soft and gentle and slow would you be with them? And see if you can do that for yourself. And just also listening to your own heart a lot. That is where you can cultivate a lot of self-love from. Listening to yourself, sitting down in meditation and listening to your heart and allowing whatever to come up and release and be expressed without criticizing it or trying to change it. Now, the second most important frequency of love that we get to cultivate on our life is with our parents. Our parents are literally our initial template for the feminine and the masculine energy that is present in our being. And it is all about balancing these energies internally in order to also feel that love and wholeness. Now, there is, of course, hopefully a minority group of people that really is not able to come to a good relationship with their parents, because these parents are so extremely selfish and there's no way of teaching them. But in the people that are sort of in that mid group and have a sometimes good, sometimes bad relationship with their parents, or mostly good and sometimes some friction and arguments, know that you did choose your parents before you incarnated. Your soul chose the parents you are with, not based on preferences and desire, but based on the karma, the energy that you are meant to go through in this earth, right? It's like they had a specific energy, you had a specific energy, and that was a perfect match for what you wanted to learn in this incarnation on earth. So you did choose your parents. And where we can practice with this unconditional love so purely is with our own parents. And sometimes we have things to teach them. Sometimes we have to teach them a little bit how to love more open-heartedly, more unconditionally, because their parents were also maybe in a more stressful situation. They developed some ways of loving based on that, and they're transferring that to you, but you as a person is maybe developing more as a spirit, awakening more, and learning how to love unconditionally. And perhaps you need to teach that to your parents a little bit with a lot of patience, teaching them how it feels like to love them unconditionally, to let them be, even if they're having a little bit of a moody moment. What if you can put your own ego aside and let them just be, give them the space to express whatever they are? Because again, you did choose your parents on this earth. So a big key to unlocking your own heart is learning how to love your parents openly and unconditionally. And again, for the mid-range of people where their parents aren't perfect, right? They have their selfish moments, but on the other hand, they also love you so much. What if you need to be the person to show them what it is like to fully love them unconditionally, have more patience, give them more space, allow them also to be who they are without trying to change them, and just see how their inner child might unlock in front of you when you start to be more loving, more forgiving, and more spacious to them, right? Because love, I said love is trust, but love is also freedom. allowing everything, not providing resistance or projecting fear upon them, but just allowing them to be, because literally learning how to love your parents unconditionally is such a direct way to completely open your heart and get to this new level frequency of unconditional love. Now, for the people who are not blessed with loving parents where they could ever get to that level, know that love, being able to love, is a blessing. Some of us don't have the blessing to get to experience that with our parents, so then it is really about practicing that, learning that with friendships and romantic relationships, and starting to take a deep dive into how unconditional this love is that you have with friendship, or whether there's a lot of need and attachment. And if there still is a lot of need and attachment, it is very important that you go back to that self-loving frequency, because you need to feel whole and complete yourself first in order to be able to love other people unconditionally. Because if you don't, then there will always be a condition to that person being in your life, because they're filling a gap or a hole within you. There is lack. And so many people don't wait for this. They just jump into relationships. They want to be in a relationship. They can't be alone. They need that friend. They need that partner. And they don't feel whole and complete themselves. But this will eventually catch up on you. When the honeymoon phase passes, the gap and the hole that you were trying to fill with that person will resurface, and it can lead to all sorts of scenarios. A lot of arguments with your partner, just depression, unhappiness, midlife crisis, whatever it is. The way to strengthen love is to simply love more open-heartedly. Love without fear. Without fear of losing them, without a condition of them needing to behave in a certain way, just loving them unconditionally. And if there are people in your life that aren't resonating with that type of love, that would abuse that type of love, or, have certain conditions attached to it, those people should not be in your life, but they will naturally disappear from your life when you start to practice to love more open-heartedly. It is like only the real ones will remain with that in your life. Not many people are on this frequency, I'm really telling you. Loving unconditionally, open-heartedly is a very rare thing, because people always have their needs, control issues, or their desires that are more important to them than the unconditional love. And that is the ego, right? That is how unawake they are. But in order for you to practice to love more unconditionally, it is really doing an analysis of all of your relationship where you still feel a lot of fear, where you still feel a lot of lack of trust, where you feel a lot of attachment, or whether there are certain conditions with which the person that in your life needs to behave or be. Do you easily get irritated when things don't go your way? Those are some important journaling exercises that you can do in order to understand how much you've been loving unconditionally, or loving from attachment from the ego selfishly. If you feel very lost in this manifestation journey, you don't know where to start or what practices to do, what journaling to do, I've crafted a very comprehensive 5-week manifestation identity shifting course, where day by day I tell you what practices to do, what journaling to do, and you get my guidance through chat as well, so that I can help you shift from the current person that you are into a higher timeline, step by step, day by day, giving you all of the guided materials needed in order to make that shift in your life. Link is in the description if you want to find out more about that. Thank you so much for watching, my loves. I love you unconditionally. And leave me in the comments, let me know what you think. Give me some details on experiences that you might have had, or maybe some moments of recognition that you had. I love to read it. And I love to see you in my next video. Sending you much love.